Well, I was going to say that I'm still happy that we're going to talk about good news in 2009. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that are painful and troubling and difficult, and that we have personal issues that may be family related or health related, that people who have just lost their job certainly are not thinking that 2009 was good news, but we talk about all those things every other week. And it seemed as though, 1 week out of the year, we could try to see some things that, maybe are progress or are, a source of celebration. And one of them, I think, is Darby Rove has got a huge amount to celebrate today. You know who Darby Rove is? It's Karl Rove's wife. She just got a divorce. Look, I called Darby up. I couldn't get her because her phone line was all tied up. But she thinks it's terrific. The other thing terrific. The other thing is that transporting things like food products from California to New Hampshire is an incredibly energy-intensive, costly process. And so just purely from a business point of view, from an environmental point of view, from a, reducing our dependence on imported, fuel, diesel, and so on, it really is beginning to make sense to try and source all kinds of things locally where you have a tremendous savings on transportation. And you can pay the farmers the same price that they would get at a farmer's market, because you're saving yourself the cost of shipping. And for a company like Walmart, they can pass that savings on, presumably, and so it's a very interesting thing. I said, I think last week I said I thought that Sarah Palin could do very well in the Iowa caucuses. I had not conferred with Steve King about it, but and the reason I think it's good news is because it probably means that the Iowa caucuses, and then the New Hampshire primary probably as well, are going to be exciting. Anywhere Sarah Palin goes, there's a lot of buzz, and everybody loves it, and the media is like flies on ketchup. And I think that means that the Iowa caucuses, and maybe even the straw poll, that summer, the one that's held in Ames, will be national and international news. There'll be buzz. People will want to follow that, and I think it's good because it pumps up everyone up, and it gives the Iowa grassroots caucuses a great deal of excitement. So yeah, I think it's terrific. Anyone who can shoot a moose in the face is my candidate for airport security. So here, look, but here's the deal. I didn't say that I thought she would make a great candidate for president for the Republicans. I said I thought it was great that if she runs and comes to Iowa and is in the caucuses, it will create excitement. In some ways, it can help candidates who are more reflective and maybe have more experience, Mitt Romney or Pawlenty or somebody like that, because people will be able to compare her and her buzz and her ability to speak and make people, get up and cheer her with their, perhaps less exciting, but maybe more wonkish and policy-oriented positions. So it'll give people an ability to compare and contrast. So, I think that's good. In the end, when the stakes are very high and people have to look at their lives, their pocketbook, and other things, I think people tend to essentially focus on policies that will address those issues. And I think we've seen that in the polls. Yes, you can get people very worked up about moral issues and social issues because those they feel passionately about them. But in the polls of Americans, remarkably, things like gay marriage, for example, are off the radar screen now. It's no longer in the top 5, I think it was, in the last poll I saw, of issues that people feel are very important, because people tend to be self-interested and rational, and so they are concerned about those things, that affect them, and they want to hear solutions, and you can demagogue them somewhat and mislead them, but in a country like the United States, we have public radio, we have lots of commercial radio, we have newspapers, we have all kinds of discussions, magazines and blogs and Twitter and things, and people eventually will hear someone say something that is rational, even with all the garbage that comes across the internet, and will say, no, this isn't going to work, listen. So I think in the end, good politics and good policy are the same thing. If you want to win, you'd better have some concrete solutions and not make stuff up. And Arnie is right, because in fact, good politics is making people be able to understand policy as something human and personal, rather than as a white paper or some sort of blue panel commission, or what John Kerry tried to do, which was kind of, government speak, Senate speak, which is too legalese and so on. So people prefer, I think, to relate to solutions through real life examples, and I think that's right. Oh, I think, I don't have the quote here, but, Bill Clinton said, don't make the mistake I did. Senator Kennedy and Richard Nixon said, don't make the mistake we made, which was to say, well, your health care reform bill and mine are different, and so I can't support yours. I don't know if this health reform bill, it's really health insurance reform and so on, will solve all these problems, or if it's even good, because a lot of people are saying it's very expensive and so on. But we have some effort, at least now, to address these issues, and we can now work through the assessment of that. And if things are not working well and things start failing, then we can go back and fix those. And we at least have raised the awareness in this country that health reform, health insurance is a serious issue that has to be dealt with on a continuing basis. And I think we had avoided that in the past because it is so complicated. So I totally agree that however the compromise comes out of the conference committee, no one is going to be happy, completely happy, but we will have something new to work from, the way we have worked, off of veterans' health care or Medicare or others, which all had imperfections, and we've been working and working to try to improve those. So I think it's a great accomplishment. Yeah, the stock market, to some extent, is not a great measure of a society, because employment and happiness and all that. But the truth of the matter is, in the United States and the way our system works, the stock market is the foundation for many people in terms of their pensions, in terms of their retirement money, and so on. And so a lot of pension funds and others really rely very heavily on the U.S. stock market performing adequately. And the fact that the stock market has recovered, I don't know what it is today, but the Dow was up to 10.5 or something, and the Standard and Poor was up almost 30% when I looked at it yesterday or a couple of days ago. That is actually very good news for a lot of people who at least now can go to sleep at night and say, my 401k is not a 101k anymore, it's maybe a 201k. So that, I think, is good, and it's also a precursor, perhaps, of renewed confidence in the American economy. I didn't mention the fact that the U.S. dollar is rebounding, is strengthening against countries that were saying, well, the United States is toast, and we're going to put our money into a new international sort of base currency, are now apparently saying, well, you know what, the U.S. dollar looks pretty good against almost all of the other currencies still. And so that means that there is an international confidence again in the American economy. And housing sales are growing to some extent. And as you said, even though it's temporary jobs, they apparently are a good indicator that companies are now feeling confident that they need more help, and that eventually some of those temporary jobs will again morph into regular jobs. And I think that's, as Arnie said, is the greatest concern for a lot of people is jobs and employment.